Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter here. Hopefully 20 minutes. We might go a little bit over. The document has grown in size over the last couple years. So the document I'm using for the New Year Prep Steps document is specific for donations. I'm going to be going over that document with everyone today. It is 6 pages. We aren't going to go over everything in detail, but we are going to go over a majority of the document. So that document is attached as a handout on your GoToWebinar toolbar. So if you would like to print that out, save it for your records, feel free to do that through that handout section on the GoToWebinar toolbar itself. We have a lot of people registered for today, which is wonderful. There is just one of me. Our call volume has already really started to increase this week with the end of the year stuff approaching. So it's just me. If you have a question or a comment, please type that into the question section on the GoToWebinar toolbar. But just know that I will not be looking at the questions until after I've gone over the materials, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So your question is important. I do want to get to it, but I'm not going to get to it until the end of the presentation. Also, we have a New Year Prep and Help page as well. So as the end of the year is approaching and people are starting to do those tasks that they do once a year that they might not always remember exactly how to do, you can head out here to our New Year Prep and Help page. It's up here under Customer Support, New Year Prep and Help, and then we have PDFs. Again, the document we're using today is here, and then this video I will replace because this one's from last year, but then there's a lot of good information for donations in accounting and payroll as well. So make sure you check out this page. One other thing I want to point out too, the document I'm going over today, a big chunk of this goes over how to use the new auto reassign feature in donations on the new version 23. I did a whole webinar on this, I think it was last week or the week before last. I'm not going to go over that again in detail. If you need help with the auto assign giver numbers feature in the new version 23, it is right here. Okay, so go to our website under Support Center, go to Resource Center, and until I get this new document up, it's the very first one on the list, okay? So make sure you come out here and you can view the information that way, okay? All right, let's get started. So the document talks about, at the top, it's our January hours as well, because we do extend our hours in January, so make sure you check out those hours across the top. And then the first thing that we're going to go over is stopping the use of giver numbers. So if you decide that you no longer wish to use giver numbers, or you have certain people whose giver numbers you just need to remove, whether it be they've moved away, whether it be they've passed away, or your church altogether just doesn't want to track giver numbers in church windows anymore, you can end those fairly easily here in Manage Numbers. So go up to Givers up at the top here, and then go to Manage Numbers. My opinion, this is the best screen to utilize when you're working with giver numbers. All right, so to end a number, you have two options. Let's look at Miss Nina here. If I follow her line all the way over to the right, there is a minus sign. If I hit the minus sign, it's going to give me an option to delete giver number 34. If you choose this option, that means there is no history that Nina ever had number 34 since her start date. It will just disappear this line. If you want to keep a history of Nina and the numbers she's had, you would want to use this Stop Using Giver Numbers option. And then you will put in the date you want that number to end. Okay? You can also click right in this end date box, and you can simply type in the end date as well. Let's say Nina doesn't need a number for next year. I'm simply typing in 12/31/2021 because that's when I want her number to end. Okay, now let's say, for example, Carolyn here, she no longer needs to be number 5. We need Carolyn to be, say, let's try number 1. If that's the case, so if you need to reassign a number one by one, if you will. So you don't want to do the auto reassign because you just have a couple people who need their number shifted. You can do that right here in Manage Numbers. So on this screen, if I come over here to the far right and I hit the little plus sign, it's going to allow me to add a number. It's just to Carolyn because that's whose plus sign I clicked. I can put in the number I want her to have and when I want that number to take effect. And then I can say OK. So now it automatically assigns Carolyn an end date. And if I come up here and I check future, it's now going to show me Carolyn with number 1 starting 1/1/2022. All right, so that's a really fast way to give someone a new number. Now you have to make sure that number is available. If somebody else had number 1 starting 1/1/2022, or somebody still had number 1 that maybe started last year, number 1 wouldn't be available. You would have to pick something else or end it for that other person. But as long as that number is available, you're able to assign it to someone else. Okay? Another easy way to assign numbers is up here. So this lower half of the screen, it's only going to show you people who currently have a number. So if you look up here in the top right, it's checked on current. Say you need to assign a number to somebody who isn't in this list, somebody who just doesn't have a number, maybe it's a brand new member, somebody who just joined. If that's the case, you will search for them through this drop box. You can scroll through the list or you can simply type in their name. Once you find that person that you want to put the number on, simply select them, come over to the right and hit Add New Number, type in the number you want them to have, and then the start date you want that number to take effect. And as long as it's available, that number will then pop in the list. But again, it's a future number, so up here top right, I'm checking future, sort numerical order. Here's my number 2 that's starting 1/1/2022 on Karen. Another really handy feature in here is if you click on the different column headers, that will then sort this list based on the column header. So it'll get this little arrow here. So I clicked giver, it's sorting alphabetically. If I click the number column header, it's now, you see here's a little arrow, it's now sorting numerically for me. Okay? But that's it. Pretty straightforward for swapping numbers around. Make sure you end the number and the number that you're reassigning is available for the date range you're wanting. All right. Middle of page 2 is talking about that auto assign feature. It is up here under givers as well. Again, this is a brand new screen. So if you're used to using the old auto assigns from years past, it's different. In my opinion, it's a lot easier. It really is. So head out to the Resource Center and check out the webinar. I think it's like 16 minutes long, but it really goes through in detail how to manipulate this screen to get those auto-assigned numbers to work for you the way you want. Okay? All right, so that's on page 2. Let's go to the bottom of page 3 if you're following along. I want to talk to you guys about getting labels for 2022. All right, while I'm in here, I am quickly going to assign new numbers here. I want them sorted by name. See if this will let me work. I just added these 2 people in. Perfect. All right. So let's talk about getting labels. A lot of people I talk to, they want to reassign their numbers for 2022. So whether that's after you do it manually, whether that's after you do the auto reassign, now you need to get labels. And you want their giver number on their label so you can stick it to their new envelope boxes. Very easy to do that. In donations, go up to Reports and Export. Go to Lists and Labels. And then you're going to go right down here to Labels. This is your first screen of all of our different reporting screens we have in Church Windows. You have to, next to the number 1, specify who you want labels for, just like any report you're running. We want labels for people who have a number for 2022. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is come right here and I'm going to uncheck this box that says include those without number. I only want people who have a giver number, so I'm going to remove this check. If you had a range, a specific range that you were wanting to use, say you do envelopes from 200 to 500, you could choose that giver number range here as well. You could also change your categories if you want to exclude visitors. By default, inactive people are left out. That's exactly what we want, so I'm going to say OK. And then this is the key right here. It says use giver number current as of. You have to change this to the first day of next year. We have to put in 1/1/2022. That's what tells the software to pull the future numbers for 2022 and not the numbers that they currently have. Otherwise, you're just going to get a label with their current number. Okay? Go up to the sort tab. Make sure your sort tab is what you want. Right now it's on giver number. I'm fine with that. So I'm going to hit next. All right, so step one is where we told it who we want. We want people that have numbers for 2022. And now we're on step two. This is where we have to set up that label to print their giver number on it. Okay, if you have done this in the past, if you hit the down arrow, you might have one in here that you made last year. So check that first before you make a new one. Just hit the down here, look through your different lists, and as you can see, there's a 5160 giver number labels. You can most likely reuse that, okay? If you don't have anything in here that you would have made before, we can always make a new one. So hit the new button. And then you have to specify what label size you're using. It's going to default to 5160. That's the most popular one we see, so that's going to pop up for you automatically. I'm going to hit finish, and then it's going to open up the report designer. Just like if you're building a directory or a custom report, you can come in here and actually manipulate the layout to exactly what you want. All right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this mailing label and current address, and I'm going to hit my down arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to just scooch it down just a little bit so it's flush with my bottom margin. What that's going to do is make space up here for me to put my giver number right up here in the top left. To add the giver number field, I'm going to come over here on the right in my data controls. I might need to scroll down a little bit. But you're looking for this membership field, okay? I'm going to click and hold, drag it over, and I'm going to drop it exactly where I want it. And as soon as I drop it, it wants me to tell it what membership field I want displayed in that space. And this is where I'm going to scroll all the way down to giver number. You might have it called envelope number. If that's the case, it'll be up by the E's. But either one, select your number field and say OK. So now you can see I have my giver number field and my mailing label and current address field. Once you have your label set up the way you want, you're going to hit Save As. I usually always leave the size in there so I know what size it's going to print to. And then I like to include what's actually on the layout itself so I don't have to come in and preview it every time to see what it's for. 5160 mailing label and giver number. Say OK. And once it's saved, I'm going to close out. So now in my Dropbox, I have that new label layout that I created. Right below, I have to specify my one label per. I'm going to choose giving unit. Okay, this is important if you have some couples that give together and some couples that don't. You might have a couple that Bob has number 2, Sally has number 3. If that's the case, by choosing giving unit, they're each going to get their own label. Okay? And then lower right, I'm going to hit print. And here are my labels. Pretty straightforward. I sorted them in numerical order, and now this is everybody, name and address with their corresponding giver number. Okay? One more thing I want to show you before we talk about pledges real quick. If you need to print a giver number list, very easy to do. Up here at the top, reports and export, lists and labels, list giver numbers. I like to use the current date, and then I choose assigned numbers, and then I choose include next giver number. This is really, really handy if you use envelope numbers or you use actual giving envelopes, and let's say somebody has a couple old envelopes they want to use up, so they throw their money in that and give it to you that way. This report will allow you to see their current number and then along with their next year number as well. You can sort it in alphabetical order, or you can sort it by their current or their next number. But this is a really handy feature for you to be able to see what the current number is and what it's going to be for next year. So this can really help the people entering the donations in the new year. Okay, now, page 5, we are going to talk about pledging. If you're not a pledging church and you want to go ahead and leave the webinar, feel free to do that. That's totally fine. But first thing you have to do is set up your campaign for 2022. So as you start getting those prepaids in, as you start getting those pledge cards back, you're going to have to go in and get that entered into the system, okay? So I'm going to go up to Accounts and Pledges, and I'm going to go into Pledges. When creating a new campaign, you have two options. You can create a new campaign from scratch and enter each person individually, which I'll show you in a minute, or you can copy an old campaign. So if I choose our 2021 campaign, I can select this copy campaign button, and it will take every single person in this list and how much they pledged along with their frequencies, and it will copy it and assign it to 2022. So if you have a lot of people who are religious pledgers, they come back every year, they pledge the same amount, you can easily do the copy campaign. Now, with that being said, you can still do the copy campaign, and then in the 2022 year, you can go in and tweak these amounts. Let's hope people are able to increase their pledge a little bit. If that's the case, you can easily come in here and adjust the amount per frequencies if you need to. If somebody pledged this year and maybe something happened and they're not able to pledge next year, when you copy the campaign, you can still go in and remove it from 2022. Okay, so copy campaigns are a really great feature if people are pretty consistent with their pledging. If you want to start from scratch and just enter each pledge card as it comes in, you can do that, but you'll have to add the campaign first. So I'm going to hit the green plus sign. I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, sorry guys, spelled that wrong. Need an A in there. 2022 campaign pledges, say OK. Now I need to choose my account. So this is the account people are pledging towards. I'm going to choose General Fund. Just going to click on my years and change my years to the next year. Amount frequency and default frequency. If you have people or if you have a campaign where everyone pledges the same amount or everyone has it the same frequency, you can set these defaults so they automatically fill in for you. Everything is unique to each individual. Just skip right over that and hit add. Now you're going to need those actual pledge cards, and you're going to have to choose your pledger, how much they've pledged, and then their pledge frequency as well. And then hit add, and now they've been added to the campaign. So you'll have to go through each individual and put their pledging information in here. And then you can simply print your report if you want to see a report of what you've done. This print report is new. We used to not have that. It's really handy having that down there. But that is how you create a campaign. Now, one more thing I want to show you. If people prepay, you have to have a pledge entered in for that person before you are able to enter the prepaid donation. Okay? So we're going to use Lucy as our example because I did put a pledge in for her. So Lucy pledged $100 a week, okay? Now, let's say she prepaid $100. It could be any amount, but that's just the example that we're going to use. So to enter her prepaid, I'm going to go to Enter Donations. I'm going to choose past Sunday's date, the 5th. I'm going to choose Lucy. I'm going to put $100 here. Say she gave a check. And as I come down here, you can see it comes up with her current pledge. See where it says current right there? This means if I continue to enter this donation this way, it's going to go towards her current pledge, her 2021 pledge. But she doesn't want it to go to her 2021 pledge. She wants it to go to her 2022 pledge. Okay? To change this, you hit the down arrow and you start scrolling all the way down towards the bottom of your giving accounts. As you get down to the bottom, you can see right here, there is General Fund 2022. Okay, this is how the software knows that this is a prepaid gift. So she gets tax credit for it this year because that's when she gave it, but the software is going to credit to the pledges for next year. Okay, add that to batch. Just a little warning now saying that you selected a future. We'll say OK. All right, now at this point you can print, you can save, you can post, you can enter the rest of your giving. Doesn't matter. Let's do post and transfer. No, I don't want to print. And here's the day we're working on here, 12/5/2021. Here's the gift, $100. It's going to my regular checking account, but it's crediting a liability account for prepaid pledges. Okay? So that is how you handle New Year prep for donations for 2022.